Malaysians must emulate character of Prophet Muhammad. Indonesian merchants voice out outcry to TikTok trade ban. You're watching Updates at Noon with me, Otto Othman. Muslims in this country are urged to learn from the downfall of civilizations and world powers as a result of slander. According to Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah, the use of derogatory, abusive, false and slanderous words will undermine the stability and harmony of the country. Al-Sultan Abdullah said after the demise of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the slander phenomenon had led to extremely tragic events in Islamic history.
Demikian hebat hakikat fitnah dan tipu daya yang bukan sahaja telah menumpahkan darah seorang pemimpin Islam yang agung, malahan telah turut menghancurkan keharmonian dan kestabilan sesebuah negara. Kerana itulah Allah SWT mengingatkan seluruh umat Islam untuk menghindari serta menjauhi orang-orang yang tidak bercakap benar, takbir urus negara.
His Majesty also urged the people to emulate the resolute character of Prophet Muhammad in upholding integrity and accountability, as well as to adhere to the principles of justice in all state affairs in order to safeguard the Ummah's welfare. Al-Sultan Abdullah was gracing the national level Maulidul Rasul celebration in Putrajaya this morning. Prophet Muhammad's great character and conduct, including his kind and forbearing nature, is the prime example to follow. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said the struggle of Prophet Muhammad in preaching and guiding the people despite facing relentless hostility from his enemies should be inspiration to persevere in times of hardship. The Prime Minister, in his Maulidul Rasul message posted on his Facebook page last night, said appreciating the struggle of the Prophet Muhammad in leading and uniting various races will certainly raise our awareness to jointly develop this beloved country as a just, peaceful and prosperous one. The Premier also prayed that Allah would bestow His blessings and continued prosperity upon the Prophet Muhammad. The national level Maulidul Rasul celebration was held at the Putrajaya International Convention Centre, PICC, this morning. Meanwhile, several cabinet ministers have extended greetings on the occasion of Maulidul Rasul through social media to all Muslims and invited them to recite salawat or blessings upon Prophet Muhammad. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said the life and struggles of Prophet are the highly valuable reference for all parties in the development of a nation. He said the tendency and steadfastness of Prophet Muhammad in facing challenges and difficulties while spreading the message of Islam with determination and courage serve an example for us, reminding that we are required to be patient, persistent and resolute in leading change to achieve the desired success. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department of Religious Affairs, Dr. Muhammad Naim Mokhtar, called on Muslims to follow Allah's commands and practice all the sayings of the Prophet. He also prayed for the love and affection of the Ummah towards Prophet Muhammad to continue to flourish. According to Education Minister Fadila Sidek, the exemplary character of Prophet Muhammad serves as a guide for all in line with the karamah insaniah, or respect for the dignity of mankind approach, which uplifts dignity and self-worth through the cultivation of etiquette, morality and integrity. The two northern states in the peninsula are still affected by floods, with the opening of the Relief Centre or PPS in Perlis, while in Kedah the number of evacuees continues to increase. In Perlis, flash floods hit Kampung Kubang Gajah following continuous rain since yesterday. A PPS was opened at Sekolah Kebangsaan SK Kubang Gajah in Arau last night to accommodate residents in the low-lying areas. Malaysian Civil Defence Force APM Director in the state, Lieutenant Colonel Muhammad Izaimi Muhammad Daud, said the PPS was opened at 8 p.m. to accommodate 42 victims involving 16 families from the village. In Kedah, there was an increase in the number of evacuees from 701 people last night to 1,220 people this morning. According to the Kedah Disaster Management Secretariat, they are being accommodated at 11 PPS in Kubang Pasu, Kota Star, Pokok Sena and Baling districts. Kampung Iboy in Kupang Baling, which was ravaged by a massive debris floods in July 2022, was hit by another flood yesterday following several hours of heavy downpour. The affected residents from Kampung Bukit Iboy and neighboring villages have been relocated to Sekolah Kebangsaan Iboy with the help of the rescuers after their homes were inundated by flood waters. Still to come, technological transformation ensures access to connectivity. Stay tuned.
Percayalah bahawa anda bertanggungjawab terhadap diri anda sendiri. Anda bertanggungjawab untuk mengatakan tidak. Jangan biarkan orang lain mempengaruhi anda. Kenal pasti hak anda, keperluan anda dan perasaan anda. Hanya sekali ia boleh meragut.
Thank you for staying with us. The Madani philosophy could not be sustained if Malaysia looks purely in terms of technological transformation without the compassion that would ensure that every single citizen in the country is given access to connectivity. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said it's just not a matter of technology, but a matter of ensuring that every single citizen from the urban poor to the remoteness area in Sabah or Sarawak is given access to connectivity.
To my mind, it is not sustainable. Sustainability is not to benefit the few, urban elite or ruling clique. Sustainability means every single citizen will benefit. That is why we do not represent a view using this race card in this country.
The Premier was closing the Malaysia ICT Summit 2023, organized by Huawei Technologies International Sdn Bhd yesterday. The Prime Minister also said that digital transformation requires a new mindset, attitude and preparedness not only to learn, but also to share, and that the pace must change. Cultivating the practice of debating in a civilized way is a necessity for young people now. Communications and Digital Minister Fahmi Fadil said this is important because debating in a civilized manner will help young people come up with clear ideas that would be very beneficial for the development of the country.
Untuk kita bukan hanya mempunyai golongan pelapis di kalangan anak-anak muda yang mampu melontarkan idea mereka dengan baik dan jelas, tapi sebagai kesinambungan kepada budaya demokrasi berparlimen dalam negara kita.
The minister was met after officiating the Asian British Parliamentary Debating Championship ABP 2023 awards ceremony last night. Fahmi said that in Malaysia, there are already several platforms for young people to present ideas with thoughtful arguments on national development, including through the Malaysian Youth Parliament and Pidato Perpaduan competition. The Johor government is looking for the best ways to deal with the shortage of local white rice (BPT) supply. Its Minister, Menteri Besar Dato' On Hafiz Ghazi said the effort was to help the federal government deal with the ongoing national issue. He said that although the supply of rice and basic necessities is not under the control of the state government, it nevertheless still affects the well-being of the people in Johor.
Ini bukan isu Johor saja, it's a national issue. Tapi orang Johor terlibat. So macam mana kita buat dari segi jalan-jalan di Johor, walaupun jalannya federal, tapi Johor tak bersikap lepas tangan. Isu CIQ pun federal, but Johor tak lepas tangan.
The Menteri Besar was met after visiting the Maju Johor Mini Carnival in Kota Iskandar. On the Johor Budget 2024 scheduled to be tabled in November, Dato' On Hafiz said it will focus on efforts to increase the marketability of local entrepreneurs' products at the domestic and international levels, especially for the small and medium industries sector. Canada PM offers apology for invite to ex-Nazi. That and more in the foreign segment. Indonesia has banned e-commerce transactions on social media platforms in a move intended to protect traditional retailers and which will mostly impact short video platform TikTok in its shopping platform. Online vendors, however, are concerned that this would hurt their income, which has been solely based on online sales since the COVID-19 pandemic.
Banyak UMKM yang mungkin mereka tidak bisa punya toko fisik atau toko fisik yang terbatas yang selama ini mengandalkan TikTok, akhirnya secara penjualan mungkin terganggu menurut saya, karena kita nggak bisa pungkirin dong pada akhirnya pemulihan COVID ini salah satunya dari TikTok.
Trade Minister Zulkifli Hasan told reporters the regulation, which takes effect immediately, is intended to ensure fair and just business competition, adding it was intended also to ensure data protection of users.
Ya setuju, tapi jangan TikTok doang, semuanya harus seenggak-enggaknya dikasih limit. Kalau itu sebenarnya bukan, saya udah ngomongin dari media TV yang lain kemarin itu saya udah omongin, jangan cuman dikasih peraturan kayak gini, tapi dikasih limit. Kalau tujuannya buat membantu UMKM.
According to data from consultancy Momentum Works, Indonesia generated nearly $52 billion worth of e-commerce transactions last year. Of that, 5% took place on TikTok, primarily through live streaming. Indian security forces fired tear gas at protesters in eastern Manipur state during a demonstration over the killings of 2 missing students. Hundreds of people gathered in the capital city, Impal, to protest the killings after photos of the students' corpses laying in a forest area surfaced on social media platform. The protesters were marching towards the chief minister's residence before being dispersed by security forces. Media reports said a curfew was imposed in the city to curb the violence. Manipur has been wrecked by ethnic violence since May, and at least 180 people have been killed and thousands more displaced since the Meitei and Kuki communists started fighting over the sharing of economic benefits and quotas. Russian President Vladimir Putin urged the government to respond more promptly to rising fuel prices Wednesday as the cost of wholesale petrol continued to grow despite an export ban. Russia's government announced last week it was temporarily limiting exports of petrol and diesel fuel to stabilize the domestic market amid reports of shortages in some regions. After recovering from a record high last week, the market price of Russian petrol ticked up again on Tuesday despite the export ban. Analysts have pointed to a weaker rumble, rising global oil prices and repair work at refineries curbing supplies. Farmers in some regions have been unable to harvest grain due to a shortage of fuel needed for agricultural machinery, local media outlets have reported. The fuel prices rise as Russia's central bank warns economic growth is set to slow down in the second half of 2023, with inflation above the bank's target of 4%. Russian officials have largely shrugged off the economic effects of Moscow's dragging offensive in Ukraine, despite persistently high inflation and a weak ruble. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Wednesday offered an unreserved apology in Parliament after the legislature publicly celebrated a Ukrainian World War II veteran who fought alongside the Nazis.
On behalf of all of us in this House, I would like to present unreserved apologies for what took place on Friday and to President Zelensky and the Ukrainian delegation for the position they were put in. For all of us who were present to have unknowingly recognized this individual was a terrible mistake and a violation of the memory of those who suffered grievously at the hands of the Nazi regime.
The Canadian leader was referring to an embarrassing incident that marred a visit by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky last week, sparking an uproar that led the resignation of the parliament's speaker on Tuesday. Zelensky was in the chamber as guest of honor when the speaker, Anthony Rota, name-checked the elderly veteran as a World War II hero, prompting a standing ovation. It emerged afterward that the veteran had served in Nazi-linked military unit.
76 minit tanpa henti.
76 minutes non-stop. Transparent and concise.
Paparan komprehensif, ringkas dan padat. Saksikan Kanta 744 malam. Berita perdana 8 malam.
Malaysia Tonight, 8:30 p.m.
U.S. soldier Travis King has been freed by North Korea and is heading home, nearly 3 months after he ran across the border from the south. The White House said on Wednesday that the 23-year-old's release comes after intense behind-the-scenes diplomacy and ends the prospect of a long stay in a country with a history of using detained Americans as bargaining chips.
We tried to reach out to them when Travis King first crossed the border into North Korea. We tried to reach out on a number of occasions. They rejected our direct approaches and ended up talking to Sweden. And Sweden talked to us and helped negotiate this transfer. But I would not see this as the sign of some breakthrough. I think it's a one-off with them being willing to return this private.
North Korea's state news agency had made a surprise announcement just hours earlier that Pyongyang had decided to expel King, whom U.S. officials said was in good health. King crossed the North Korean border to China with the help of Swedish diplomats, where he was handed over to U.S. custody before flying out to a U.S. military base. Gabon's military-installed Prime Minister yesterday outlined plans for a national dialogue to be organized next year, which would pave the way for drawing up a new constitution. Nearly a month after military leaders ousted President Ali Bongo Ondimba after 14 years at the helm of the oil-rich country, Raymond Ngo told a press conference that an appeal for contributions towards the dialogue would go out from next week. Last week, Ndong defended the takeover before the United Nations as a lesser evil, saying the intervention prevented bloodshed. Coup leader General Brice Oligui Nguema, who was swiftly sworn in as transitional president, has promised to hand back the country to civilian rule with elections after a transitional period. However, no time frame has been given. Ndong said contributory ideas would be sought from all categories of the population. That process will be a prelude to organizing a national dialogue, which he said he hoped would take place between April and June. Ndong said a summary will be compiled from the contributions, which will then provide the working basis for the national dialogue. Two Russian cosmonauts and an American astronaut landed back on Earth Wednesday after spending a year at the International Space Station, ISS. Now, according to Russia's Roscosmos Space Agency, the Soyuz MS-23 spacecraft carrying them reached Earth at 11:17 GMT in a landing that took place in normal mode. Roscosmos said cosmonauts Sergei Prokofiev and Dmitry Petelin, as well as NASA astronaut Francisco Rubio, spent 370 days, 21 hours and 22 minutes in space, the longest flight under the ISS program. NASA also confirmed the landing. The three men had traveled on a Russian Soyuz to the ISS last year in a mission that was meant to last only 6 months. But the Soyuz suffered a leak, probably due to impact from a tiny meteorite. So Moscow sent another rocket with no crew on board. The Russians and American then carried out the mission of the crew that was due to replace them. Next in sports, JDT clinched 10th consecutive Super League title. Stay with us. Johor Darul Ta'zim JDT clinched their 10th consecutive Super League title in style by thrashing PDRM FC 4-0 at the Sultan Ibrahim Stadium in Iskandar Putri last night. With 4 matches left to play, JDT have amassed an insatiable lead at the top of the table, with a whopping 22 wins, 1 draw and 0 losses, claiming with 64 points so far. The Southern Tigers took a 2-0 lead in the first half through Brazilian sensation Bergerson Gustavo Silveira da Silva in the 37th minute and midfielder Juan Muniz Gallego 3 minutes after that. In the second half, PDRM FC defender Izzak Isham Yuswardi brought down Arif Aiman Muhammad Hanapi in the penalty box, and referee Fitri Maskon pointed to the spot. Arif Aiman scored the ensuing spot kick in the 54th minute to make it 3-0 for JDT, while Argentine striker Fernando Martin Forestiris' powerful strike 3 minutes later was the icing on the cake for Esteban Solari's men. The Sultan Iskandar Stadium erupted in celebration at the final whistle, marking a decade of Malaysia Super League dominance by the Southern Tigers. After achieving their domestic target, JDT now turn their focus to their Asian Champions League challenge as they prepare themselves to fave BG Pathum United on 3rd October.
We know we will have a tough game because we're going to play away and with a team that has a lot of quality players that play good football, and I think it will be a nice game to see. And we will go there to try to win because this is JDT and it doesn't matter. We will go to play our football, try to win.
They play on the good level in Thailand, but we are JDT. We don't fear nobody. We can press them. We press also Kawasaki here, so we go there with all the focus. We go into everything to do our best and make the people proud.
Meanwhile, JDT skipper Jordi Amat is expected to be fully fit ahead of their match against BG Pathum United. Napoli striker Victor Osimhen's agent said, quote-unquote, reserves the right to take legal action against the club after a video mocking the player was posted and then deleted from the Serie A side's official TikTok recently. Roberto Calenda released a statement on messaging platform X, formerly known as Twitter, saying the video caused very serious damage to the player. Calenda said what happened on Napoli's official profile on the TikTok platform is not acceptable. Following that, Osimhen removed photos of himself in Napoli colours from his own social media, fueling speculation that he will demand a move in the next transfer window. Napoli did not immediately respond to a request for comment outside normal business hours. Osimhen missed a late penalty in a goalless draw against Bologna in Serie A on Sunday. He was substituted as the game drew to a close and appeared to protest the decision, shouting at coach Rudi Garcia before leaving the pitch. The French manager, however, played down the situation, and Napoli are now 5th in the table with 11 points after beating Udinese at home last night, in which Osimhen scored a goal for the Italian champions. The Confederation of African Football, CAF, has announced that the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations will be jointly hosted by Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, while Morocco will stage the 2025 edition. Morocco last hosted the AFCON in 1988 and was chosen in 2015, but asked for the tournament to be postponed because of the Ebola virus, although CAF later decided to strip the North African nation of the hosting rights. While Morocco were hot favorites to host the 2025 edition of the premier African sport event, the shock last-minute withdrawal of Algeria from the 2027 race on Tuesday threw it wide open. The Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania bid then got the nod for the CAF Executive Committee, taking the biennial tournament back to East Africa for the first time since Ethiopia staged the 1976 finals. Morocco boasts many world-class stadiums and have successfully hosted numerous African and world football tournaments. But Kenya and Tanzania have only one international standard venue each, and Uganda none, which forced their national team to play 2023 Cup of Nations qualifiers at neutral venues. Poland will bid to hold the Summer Olympics in 2036. Now, Polish President Andrzej Duda said yesterday, entering the ring with other hopefuls, including Indonesia and also Mexico. Poland, which hosted the multi-sport European Games this summer in Krakow and Malopolska, has never hosted in Olympic Games.
Szanowni Państwo, chcę z tego miejsca ogłosić po konsultacjach, które odbyliśmy z szefostwem Polskiego Komitetu Olimpijskiego, z panem ministrem sportu, jego współpracownikami, ze stroną rządową, że jest naszą ambicją i zamiarem, aby rozpocząć starania o letnie Igrzyska Olimpijskie w naszym kraju.
The International Olympic Committee has awarded the 2032 Games to Brisbane, while there are several interested potential candidates for the 2036 Games. Paris will host next year's Summer Games, while Los Angeles will stage the 2028 Games. Airbnb is expecting to host as much as 500,000 people in Paris during the 2024 Olympics and needs more Parisians to put up their homes for rent to be able to do so. This target was announced by Chief Executive Officer Bran Chesky in a media interview recently.
We've done surveys that suggest as many as 20% of people in Paris are interested in hosting. If they put their homes in Airbnb and there's enough housing, prices will stay within reason. You know, if not enough people put their homes in Airbnb and people don't have enough supply or they're staying in hotels and they can't build more hotels, that's going to increase prices.
Chesky said the prices will be contained if there are more listings made. He said this amid fears that prices could skyrocket and accommodation for the Games next August become unaffordable for some. Paris Tourism Office expects some 16 million people to visit the wider Paris region for the Olympics and Paralympics Games next summer. At the time when Airbnb is dealing with a lot of pushback from local authorities across the world amid a stiff competition between short-stay rental and longer-term rentals for residents. Chesky said Airbnb would do its best to contain prices. Well, that ends updates at noon. Wrapping up with a reminder of our top story, Malaysians must emulate character of Prophet Muhammad. Now tune into Malaysia Tonight coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. I'm Otto Othman, Malaysia Madani, tekad perpaduan, penuhi harapan and salam Maulidul Rasul.